Hello, YouTube land. Oh, what a week it's been. I know I haven't posted all week. Well, I haven't significantly posted in the past week. It's been a rough one. So as you can see, I have new glasses. Yes, there's a story. A week ago, I had my eye doctor's appointment, which had been postponed a week because its original scheduled date was 2 days after Rizzo came home. And obviously I couldn't, leave him alone for that long at that point. Whew, I'm dehydrated. So Tuesday I went to my appointment, and with insurance discounts, okay, accounting for insurance and all such related discounts, because I have prescription lenses, because I need them tinted like this permanently, these aren't transitions, these are permanent tint, the total for my glasses was $200 after all the insurance discounts. That's a lot. So to get it out of the way, I paid it in full that day because I knew I had the eye doctor's appointment. I knew I was going to need new glasses, and I told Sam that. When I told him how much it was afterwards, even he couldn't believe it, and he said, "Wow, did you have enough to cover it?" And I said, "Yeah, well, I over-prepared in this case because I wasn't sure what the copay was with the insurance we have now because it's different than when I had the last time I got my eyes checked at that place." Good thing I'm paranoid. Well, later that day, I get a call back from the veterinarian's office, Dr. Tello, at Noah's Ark. And it turns out that when he got done with all of the tests that he had to do for Rizzo, who he had seen that Saturday, so Rizzo came home on the 5th. I was supposed to go to the eye doctor on the 7th. That Saturday, which was like the 13th, Rizzo went and met Dr. Tello. The Tuesday after that, which is like the 16th, 17th, I went to the eye doctor. Well, that afternoon, no, my dates are all wrong here. Whatever. Last Tuesday, I also get a call back from Dr. Tello about Rizzo's test results, and it turns out that not only is he on antibiotics because of a respiratory condition, which he'd been sneezing a lot for, which is what I brought him to see Dr. Tello for in the first place, but it turns out the results from his stool sample show something that needs to be killed off as well. I think it was a worm, he said. So, because of how certain things transmit between animals, he has to be treated, but the exposure risk is equal for Tribble, our indoor cat, because Rizzo can't go out yet. He's not vaccinated enough to go out for walks. So, even more so, God, is it Exterminator Day? So even more so, I have to bring Tribble down. So that's another $30 per pet for the treatment. No, thank you! What was I saying? Okay. So they both have to go down that afternoon. Luckily, it's not far. I took them, they got treated. So it's a pretty expensive Tuesday all around. Well, over the course of the week, there were several different things that came up, between me not feeling well and I don't know, I spent the entire week getting serious kickback from everything I tried to eat. Sam and I went and saw Iron Man 3 on Sunday. Hi, Tribble. And that was good, but of course, the 3 minutes I was outside of the theater because I had been drinking a soda, I missed the Stan Lee cameo. Lucky me. Anyhow. So Rizzo is still on his antibiotics, and They've both been treated for whatever viral thing it was, and he needs to get retested in like 3 weeks from now. But I thought, okay, well, it was a kind of crappy week, whatever. Sunday, I go because I get a phone call Saturday, and Sunday I go and I pick up my new glasses, as you can see. And Sunday night, it was also Sunday night. So much has been going on. I'm not even getting my dates remotely straight. I know I'm not. Sunday night, I was using my iPod Touch, and for reasons I don't understand, it decided to commit suicide. I mean, seriously, I was stationary. It was in my hand. I moved to stand up from the seated position I was in, and it threw itself onto the floor. My hands were not greasy, slippery, wet, nothing. It just all of a sudden went, I want to live! Boom! Into the tile floor. Now, a lot of times you drop something like that and there's a chip in the corner, there's a hairline fracture in the screen. No. This fucker went face first. It was a horror show. The glass, destroyed. The casing, remarkably intact, although the outer edge where it first made contact did break off into several small black pieces. So I had no device. And I have a pretty basic, non-major brand cell phone that doesn't get data. So it's not like I had an iPod and an iPhone or an Android or something I could do apps on. I had the iPod because I did not have a web-capable phone. Or at least not one that I used for the web, because several factors: cheapness, family plan, cell phones, expensive, etc. Yada, yada, yada. Well, my dad and I are still working on figuring out exactly what we're going to do about the new cell phone plan, because he's thinking of changing companies. And then in the middle of it, my iPod does this. So I went, and I looked, and I price hunted. And I didn't get an iPod Touch. I did get a similar product, though. But this one, I'm not going to be taking around with me as much. I'm taking Sam's advice and immediately getting a case for this, because it's ridiculous to not have a case. That's half the reason it was so easy for it to fracture like it did. But then I was sitting on the couch earlier finishing lunch, and it's been a rough morning for me personally. I was up way too early. I didn't eat until the middle of the day. I mean, I woke up at 3. I didn't have the opportunity to eat until 12:30. So, all that under my belt already, thinking, okay, well, the laundry's done. That's what I did with my time this morning. We'll go from there. So I was on Twitter, and I sent a message, just by the by, casual. Hey, Dad, if you were curious, like my new device, not as portable, blah, 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 but it suits me. Well, I go downstairs to the supermarket. My dad decides to call me. And he's like, well, I'm glad you're enjoying, your new thing, and I thought I should let you know John died. Now, my brain works pretty fast. Again, no bragging intended, but my brain works pretty fast compared to most people I've ever met. And it took me about a half a second to go, John? John, you're John? Now, John is someone my dad had worked with as a direct support professional at a day program in Scarborough, Maine, for several years, and then John went back to Maryland, where he's from, because life took his path that way. Well, a few years ago, after I moved to New York, so 5 or 6, John moved back to Maine. And of course he looked up his friend Lorenzo, because they're relatively similar in age, and they had similar interests being in the same age group. And they pretty quickly fast bonded, and, went the BFF guy route. They didn't have a severe bromance, but there was bromantic overtone. I mean, it was more brotherly, really. And my dad calls me and he says, yeah, John died. And I went, whoa, dude, I'm so sorry. What the fuck happened? Well, there have been times in the past where John being John, Lorenzo hadn't been able to get in touch with him for several days at a stretch. And usually he was just homesick or he was off with friends, partying or drinking or something that interested him. Well, a couple years ago, after he'd officially retired, John moved into a quote-unquote monitored or assisted living facility. A retirement community, really, for anyone, 55 to 60 and older. And when he didn't show up for plans they had this weekend, my dad logically thought, well, it's John. It's not the first time it's happened. I'll try and get in touch with him tomorrow. Well, then it wasn't possible to get in touch with him again, and then finally he called the main office of the place where John lives and said, I'm getting concerned. This is my friend, you know me, I've been there to visit him, and we go out and do stuff, and I'm not having any luck whatsoever reaching him on his phone, on his cell phone, nothing. Well, because it's a retirement-assisted community, they do these health checks. So I suppose when you move in, you have to be clear about your medical health and terms and conditions and sign waivers saying, I give you permission to come into my apartment if there's valid concern for my safety or well-being. So they went and did a health check. And according to my dad, they found him on the floor. And there will be an autopsy because they don't know if he had a heart attack, if he fell, if he had an unexpected aneurysm. There's no way to know just from finding someone on the floor. So, poor Dad. And even he said to me on the phone, he's like, it still hasn't totally hit me. I only found out this morning when they called me back to let me know what was going on, and the only family John has is his sister in Maryland who is disabled. Both of John's parents are gone. And my dad said to me the fortunate thing is that John was a relatively organized guy when it comes to major things. So he knew what John's final wishes are. And he's going to do his best to follow through with them. But I said to him, I'm like, dude, I really do try to pride myself on the fact that I am almost brutal with my honesty. But the fact of the matter is, all I can think to say is, dude, that fucking sucks, man. I am so sorry. You know my policy if you need my help. And my dad just went, yeah. No, I know, I agree. And I for the next couple of seconds walking across the street, he was still on the phone explaining, it hadn't really hit him yet. And I just kept saying, dude. And I don't know if it's because my dad is my dad or if it's because he's a guy in general, but two dudes, and he went, yeah, I know, I agree. I said to him, man, if I were you, when you get home from work tonight, I would sit down with at least a couple beers. And my dad just went, yeah, you're right, I probably will. So it's been quite a week or two of eventfulness, and there was some interesting cooking going on, but, that's a separate, more upbeat post, and I don't know. For today, at least, everyone seems relatively calm and cozy and comfy, so, well, everyone in this house, sort of. So, I'll talk to you guys later, and I hope your week's been going better than mine. Oh, but you know what? This will run a little bit longer than even usual, but I'm going to say this. John, I did not know very well. I knew he and Dad were tight. I knew he'd worked with him. And I had spent a couple of road trips visiting my sister in Waterville with John in the car because, being very similar to Lorenzo, John was a big fan of vaudeville, such as, my dad is. So I never spent much time with him, but I do know that he was important to my dad. And I do know that because he was important to my dad, I've made sure to provide things like Christmas gifts when we go up for the holidays, like a baked good, or I think one year I knitted him a hat. So I'm sorry to know that he's gone, majorly because I'm sorry how much I'm sure my dad will miss him. It's not that I have any personal connection to John, but I have empathy by extension, which I guess in a way you'd probably choose to refer to as sympathy. But what time I did spend with him, he was a good guy, very interested in the same kind of music my dad was, which in my case follows suit because my dad and I bonded over music when I was growing up, so the music I like is really the stuff my dad likes. Yeah, that's the end of what I have to say for right now. I'll talk to you guys next time.